All right, guys, it is time to discuss week 5 of the Cavs Gaming Showcase. We are now into the second half of the season. Myself and Scheckel are here to break down the big matchups and storylines heading into week number 5. First things first, we don't have to discuss anyone new dropping out, so there hasn't been any teams that have, kind of said they don't want to be involved anymore, so that's good. Hopefully it does stay in the 60s, but yeah, as of right now, there hasn't been any new teams. That being said, because there are now getting into uneven amounts of teams with certain standings, that being, the 4-0 teams, there are 5 currently going into week 5 that are 4-0, meaning that one of them is going to have to match up against a 3-1 team, which in most cases would be lucky, and that team was Composure. Composure being 4-0 gets the easier matchup playing a 3-1 team. However, that 3-1 team that they ended up facing is Scheckel's Entourage, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about the luck involved there, but they are essentially the top 2 ranked teams in terms of, predictions to go to the LAN. Pretty much everyone's top 4 has these 2 guys involved in it, so kind of funny that Composure gets the lucky draw in playing a 3-1 team instead of a 4-0 team, but they're going to get Entourage, so there's not really any luck there at all, and that sucks for Entourage and you guys because you get to play Composure at 3-1. So bring us into that. Like, what do you think as far as when you saw the schedule released? What did you think initially?
Yeah, initially I was like, man, Composure is running the gauntlet. They've had week 1 of consistency. Week 2, they faced Spin the Block. Week 3, Infinity. Week 4, Resilience. And now week 5, they get us, Entourage. Spin the Block is probably the least known team out of all those, and they're sitting at 2-2. So Composure's been getting pretty unlucky. For our sake, I figured we would match up with them at some point. So what's the difference between week 5 or week 8?
Yeah, I've been saying this for a little while now. These teams that match up early, specifically like BBB and Infinity, have had some tough matchups as of late. The thing you have to remember is you don't play the same team again. So if you continue on and you take your L against one of the bigger teams and whatnot, there's not really that much concern because you would have met them at some point. And to be honest, having the L now was going to give you an easier matchup usually because everyone else is kind of separate or kind of in the same block as far as the record goes. So not all that terrible, and it's going to be probably one of the best games or most watched in terms of excitement and intrigue into that one, as it is 2 of the favorites to go to the LAN. So Composure was the one that was getting the unlucky draw, especially this week, but the Forgotten are the lucky ones this week. So if you remember last week, the Forgotten went to 1-3 as they lost to the Fantastic Boys. They actually get to play the 0-4 team that still remains, and that sole 0-4 team is the Misfits. So that sucks for them because they just can't. Yeah, they're 0-4 and now have to play a team that many expected to be in the top 32. So if all plans out there, the Forgotten should get the win. But if they lose this one, that's pretty much it. I mean, if they lose anyone now, it's pretty much it. But this might be a week where they can actually build on that goal differential, as they're going to need to really make up some ground here. And the 0-4 team remaining would be, the lucky draw for them. But let's get into some of the best matchups. Scheckel, take it away as far as the matchups go.
Yeah, so we're going to do it a little bit different this week. I'm not really going to go into the best matchups, but the matchups that I want to watch if I get a chance to, just because there's a ton of great matchups across the board.
Yeah, I agree.
The second half week of the season, there's a ton of really good hockey matchups, but these are the matchups I want to watch just because of storylines and different reasons. So the first one was going to be about a 2-2 team. We talked about 3 of them. Hopefully they don't get a tough matchup. But it's going to be BBV versus Highlight Highlanders. I think this was a tough draw for BBB. It wasn't against Gladiators or Underdogs like we discussed in the recap, but this is still not an easy draw for them. Both sides expect and want to win here, and either side's going to be really upset with a loss. I would be shocked to see if BBB loses this, but I wouldn't count Highlight Highlanders just out of it. They can definitely win this if they play well. Dangs, think is going to be playing center for them, is very confident in his abilities. He's going to try and will his team to a win. And I look for Sit to have a much better week and help produce some offense for BBB.
Let me ask you this. If the BBB loses this game, is it legitimately a question if they're going to make playoffs or not?
I don't think so because they'll just be at 2-3. They have a really good goal differential, so they
That's
had
true.
like a
Yeah,
plus
they
30
would
week
have to
one.
go like 3-4 essentially to
They're
not
going
make
to
it.
need to go
No,
like
you're
three and
correct.
five to not make playoffs.
Sorry, three
So
and five. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not too worried about it if they lose this. I if they keep level heads.
Yeah, that's the
If they
thing. I
keep
mean, if they
themselves in
lose
it.
this game, they lose this game, it'd be interesting to see some of the personalities on that squad because they aren't
Yeah.
really used to losing in sixes, and this is kind of the biggest stage, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. What are your predictions for this series? Give me how you think it's going to go.
Yeah, I still think BBB's got to win this in two. I think Highlight has to play one of their best games to beat BBB, and BBB needs to have an off day.
I will agree with you. 2 games for BBB. But who knows? There is some talent on Highlanders with Jaff and Danks. So we'll see how they go. Let's move on to our next most intriguing matchup of Week 5.
Yeah, we got Montage Moment versus Nothing to Prove. Wingles has Montage Moment in that tier 3, and he had nothing to prove in tier 2. So this is a great match to see where Montage Moment is lining up with the rest of the field heading into the second half of the regular season. Terry Toronto's a D-man for Nothing to Prove. He's been part of the Sixes scene for a long, long time. So he definitely knows how to play sixes, and I'm sure he's got some guys around him that know how to play sixes as well. So it's really kind of just a storyline to see where Montage Moment lines up. They've had some easier matchups. I don't think this is a very tough matchup. Like it could have been worse for them, but it's definitely a good proving ground for them.
Yeah, I agree. This is another, like I said, we were going to say last week about Montage Moment. I mean, they win this game and improve to 4-1 on the season. Like, they not only will probably lock up a playoff spot, but I mean, they might actually have a decent seed as well,
Mm-hmm.
which not a lot of people predicted as far as, at the end of the season, just from what was going on. But it'll be interesting to see how that works out. And see, hopefully Hannick's back for them, or Hannick is back for them as well, as he is probably their best player. All right, man. So, what do you think in the series? What do you think the results are?
I'm gonna get Nothing to Prove in 3 here. Nothing. It could go either way, to be honest, but I still think Nothing to Prove pulls it out in 3.
In 3, you know what? This team is the bane of my existence since the start of this tournament because you have Nasher, who is like the most followed person in the NHL community, as well as Donnie, who might have the largest ego and hype train behind him for this team, and it would not surprise me at all if Nothing to Prove is a very good team, but again, they're not one of the top tier teams. And for whatever reason, I think Montage Moment wins this series.
I
In
can see it
3.
happening.
Yeah, it's
It
not
could
out of the
happen.
question. And I'm going to say Montage Moment in 3. This will be the only time. Because after this, the format and the way it's in, like they cannot get an easy matchup going forward. Not that Nothing to Prove is, but forfeit last week, they played, some of other than Mercenary in the first week.
They had Dahlia too.
I mean, they did have Dahlia, but I mean, like that was a loss as expected, right? Like that was their one loss. Their wins I'm talking about. Other than Mercenary has been kind of, just whatever. So we'll see. I'm going to say Montage Moment in 3 just because that's how my life operates. So what's the next one?
Next one's going to be Turning Point versus Natty Light Knights. I think this is a huge matchup for Natty Light Knights. This is definitely a matchup that they can put their foot into the talking points and saying, we are here, we are a Sixes team now, and we are a top tier team. And they facing up against a really good Turning Point team. However, Turning Point couldn't get their offense going against last week against Easy Work. I expect goals in this series. I don't expect a 1-0 or 2-1 games. If you're looking for offense, this is a game or series that you should watch. I think Villain and Rip are great offensive wing threats for Turning Point, and you're going to look at CM and Soto on the wings for Natty to see the offense that they can produce.
I definitely agree with you with Natty Light Knights winning this game and kind of being now included. Again, like I've said before, the Sixers community is pretty tough to crack that, like, just accept it as far as being a very, very good team. Shout out to my boy Reki for Turning Point. I do think that Turning Point takes this series, and I think it's going to happen in 2. What say you?
Yeah, I got Turning Point in 2, but it is 6s, and I think can happen.
All right, moving on to the next one. We've got Phantoms versus Dahlia. Break it down for me.
Yeah, this is 2 very, very defensive teams. If you're looking for goals, like we discussed in that last series, this is not one you want to tune into. If there are goals, it might be lucky tips and deflections. I expect 2-1 games or even 1-0 games, and I expect a lot of OT in this series for sure. If you're looking for offense, it's going to be Riz and MP7 for Dahlia, trying to produce something, and I look for Phantoms to collapse and clog up the middle and keep Dahlia to the outside. It's going to be a tough grind for both teams to score some goals.
No, absolutely. This is definitely one of the bigger matchups. And again, one of these teams is going to go to 5-0, which is fantastic for them. Basically, this is for a playoff spot, guaranteed. Now, both these teams are going to make the playoffs, but at this point now, you're looking at acquiring or locking down that, the higher end seeds now. And I think that's going to go a long way. A lot of people, I think, are overlooking. They're just kind of happy with getting into the playoffs. I think you need to look at making sure that your record's high enough, because there's 32 teams, and I don't think that there's going to be 32, favorites as it is. Like there's going to be some teams that you could take advantage of. The top tier guys will take advantage of at the lower end of the 32 squads. So definitely you want to win this game, and especially just to prove. I mean, Dahlia did get the forfeit win last week, so haven't really played since Montage Moment, I believe.
I believe that's right.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait and see how they come back after a nice little layoff. Phantoms beating Entourage, huge win there for them over you guys. But what do you think? How do you think this series is going to play out?
I'm going to pick Dahlia in 3. It's going to be a tough grind game, and it's going to be who gets the bounce, really.
Well, since Mikey D absolutely blasted me in Hut today, I'm going to go with Dahlia in 3 as well. And I think I agree with you. It's going to be very, very low scoring. But again, very, very interesting series to watch, as now we are getting into going to 5-0 is huge for one of these squads. So, and moving on to what pretty much everyone is going to say is the match of the week. It's the 4-0 Composure against 3-1 Entourage. Both of these teams are extremely, high favorites to make the LAN. You guys obviously losing to Phantoms last week. Now, you didn't have your full lineup in last week, but no excuses. So Regs will check back in this week. It looks like Composure, again, just a rough schedule. When you lay out the teams that they've played, it has no one should be complaining more than these guys as far as the draws they've gotten. Because again, pulling a 3-1 team, being the consensus like top 4 team in the tournament, is kind of crazy. But this is definitely looks to be a preview of either a really late playoff matchup or potentially 2 teams that make it to the LAN. It's gonna be crazy to watch. It'll be interesting to see if there's any roster changes for Composure, if anyone can't make it, things like that. But definitely a series that everyone is going to check into, as this is 2 of the titans of the tournament. I will say, since you probably are picking Entourage to win,
I'm not picking at all.
Don't be a. All right, I will say, it's crazy to me that Entourage could fall to 3-2.
I'm not.
Well, obviously, you sound like that. Like, nah, this is messing up. We're having a conversation halfway through. It's crazy to me to think that Entourage will fall to 3-2. I think we get 3 overtime games, and
wow.
I have a feeling that Entourage will win this. Whatever team loses will beat the other team in the playoffs, though.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
hot takes there.
Yes, some hot takes. Absolutely. That's what we're here for. So I think Entourage wins this 3 overtime games. Okay. And Composure then beats you guys in the playoffs, whether it be at LAN or if you guys match up before that. So, not to mention, if you guys fall to 3-2, Composure probably isn't going to lose 2 games. Well, anything's possible. But you think about that, like if you guys lose 2, that means you potentially could match up before the land just based on you being lower in the rankings. So this is a big game for you guys to not have to go up against a really, really good team throughout, early on in the playoffs. So just something to keep in mind as well there.
Yeah, this game will definitely determine kind of what they're going to do in playoffs. I don't think they've decided, are they going to reseed the tournament, or is it going to be 4 brackets kind of thing? So it'll be
we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I mean, we definitely have to bring that up to Owe as far as how the playoffs is going to go. I'm not sure if it's in the rules either. So, but again, guys, that is the biggies for Week 5. Again, tune into the Caps featured game of the week. I'm not sure what it is, but I've got a feeling that it might be Entourage and Composure. But we'll wait and see, as Entourage likes to play at midnight. So I'm not sure whatever they decide, guys. So again, thank you for watching and hanging out and whatnot. And we'll be back to discuss everything that happens in Week 5 on Monday. You guys have a good one.